Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Colleen Hegranes, and I am the Interim Vice President for Academic Affairs here at Alverno College. I've been here for probably about 4 or 5 months, and will be here through this academic year. And so I just want to say a couple words about that, and that is that when I first came to Alverno in March, I came to work on 2 or 3 special projects and was planning to be gone by the 1st of July. And then as an opportunity arose for me to stay in this position, it really wasn't hard to decide that I wanted to do that. This is the kind of place that just kind of grabs a hold of your heart and holds you here. And so I'm really excited and pleased to be part of this and to be asked to host this afternoon with you. I want to also welcome everyone here, the faculty, the staff, and the students who are here with us today, but mostly to you students, because this is a very special event for you, and we're here to congratulate you because you've reached such an impressive milestone in your college career. And don't think for a minute that we don't know what a big accomplishment that is. We know how much work it is. We know how much commitment it takes to get here. We know what kind of blood, sweat, and tears goes into being a successful college student. We've done that ourselves. And this today is an important milestone, an important occasion of the milestones that you experience here at Alverno College. There's probably 4 really impressive milestones that we think about in terms of this college student life. The first one is the day that you decided that you would invest in your future by becoming an Alverno student. Then after your first year or so, year and a half, as you move from working with a professional advisor to having an advisor in your own major, we knew that, and you knew that, we needed to recognize how much you had already accomplished to get there. This year, this 3rd milestone is for you as you enter the upper division courses of your major, and really dig down and dive deeply into those things, those subject matters, those ideas that you really want to know more about as you prepare for your future. And then finally, of course, there's a milestone which you might think is the greatest milestone of all. And what do you think that would be? Yeah, graduation. Does that sound kind of great? It sounded like you were a little bit wondering if it was going to happen. Who here in this room plans to graduate this coming May? Would you stand up? Look at that. And who here plans to graduate a year from this December? Who here intends to graduate? There you go, there you go. It's a little scary to make that commitment, isn't it? But before your mind rushes to that end date, I'd like you to reflect a little bit on your experiences here at Alverno. How lucky you are to be at a place like this, to be at Alverno College, which is a college focused and laser focused on women and their learning. This is a place where you matter. You, the student, are the center of what we're doing here, where your hopes and your dreams are taken seriously. And as you know, there's a web of care that surrounds you so that you can never fall very far without there being someone there who can help you figure out how to get back up. Yes, this has been an incredibly exhausting and challenging time in your life, and it will continue to be as you move towards graduation. But we know that nothing comes easily. You know that. And we would just want you to say now and to think now about how far you've come here. I encourage you also to reflect on what you've learned so far and to take that learning with you into your upper division courses and into your careers. How you learn is as important as what you learn. You may forget some of the facts that you've learned in these last few years, but now you know where to go to find them when you need them. Through your liberal arts courses, you've learned to look at questions through a variety of lenses and disciplines. You've learned to form and defend your own opinions. You've learned how to discern truth. You've been challenged, and you've stood up for it. And the beauty of this at Alverno is that you're learning in real time how to apply your knowledge to your own personal development. You're becoming and have become an Alverno woman, and this is indeed a cause for celebration. So today we honor you for your persistence, for your accomplishments, and for all that's to come. I think there are some faculty and staff here in the room. I know some of them are getting ready for you for a little later, but those faculty and staff are here. I'm going to ask you if you would stand up and give a round of applause to these students for all they've done. Standing all for the students. Each semester at this event, we invite a faculty or a staff colleague to tell us about one of their intellectual heroes. Heroes are important because they inspire us, they can motivate us, they provide models for the future in our intellectual growth, and they shape who we are and what we do. Our heroes live through us and beyond us, like in a ripple effect. As we are affected by our heroes, our actions influence others, who are then influencing others, and so it goes. And as you listen to today's speaker, I want you to think about who your intellectual hero might be, or think about yourself as someone else's intellectual hero. And before I introduce our guest speaker, I'm just going to tell you a couple words about the agenda for today. In a few minutes, Heather Mernitz will speak with us and share her thoughts about her intellectual hero. And then afterwards, you'll have the opportunity to meet with faculty in your department and school groups. And then finally, there will be a reception in the lobby following those department meetings. If I were forced to describe my very first impression of Professor Heather Mernitz with only one word, the word dynamic is what comes to my mind immediately. And since that first meeting, I've had several opportunities to observe her, and every time I'm impressed by that dynamism, by her energy, her enthusiasm, and her genuine commitment to student learning. Heather herself embodies the intellectual heroes that we recognize today. One of her colleagues describes her as a reflective, energetic, creative teacher who's adept at effectively teaching chemistry and biochemistry, even to reluctant non-science students. That would be me. She's a teacher of teachers, too, conducting workshops for colleagues on active, student-centered teaching. She's an active scholar in the field of chemistry. Heather is known around the campus as an expert teacher who cares deeply about the learning of her students. She's a leader in the college and nationally around issues of assessment as learning, and is an active and prolific scholar who willingly shares her expertise to serve the college and the higher education community. Professor Mernitz is a role model for girls and women who aspire to careers in science. In the short time I've been here at Alverno, I've come to know that my first impression was entirely accurate. She's amazing, and we are lucky to have her here at Alverno. So, how did she get to this place in her career? Who inspired her? Who continues to inspire her? I'm sure that you are as eager as I am to hear more about her intellectual hero. So I'll ask you to please join me in welcoming Professor Heather Mernitz.
So I want to reiterate that congratulations for reaching this point in your academic career. It's a point where you get to engage in more complex and sophisticated ways in your discipline, and that's really exciting. When they asked me to do this presentation today, I had no idea who I would pick as my intellectual hero. Some faculty know exactly who they're going to pick, and I had no idea. So the first thing that I did, let me see if this works. The first thing that I did is I made a list of qualities that I thought an intellectual hero should have. Of course, they should have intelligence and reason, but also courage and originality, resilience, compassion, unique insight, humor, humility, and that spark and strength that I can't really define it any more than that, but there's something there too. And that still didn't clarify things for me. I was still stuck trying to figure out who I was going to choose. And so I looked to see who other people had deemed intellectual heroes. And I made a little collage here of some of the suggestions. What do you guys notice about these people? It's all old white men, or at least they would have been old white men. Some of them are a little younger in here, but and these are intellectual heroes, absolutely. They are heroes of Western thought, philosophy, great scientists, literary geniuses. But I just couldn't get excited about talking about any one of these guys to this audience today. So I thought maybe a little bit more broadly and diversely, right? And there's some really interesting people here too. And if anyone wants to give a talk on Elijah Cummings, I think that would be a really interesting talk. But alas, I am not the one to do it. This is just not my area of expertise, and I felt like I couldn't do these people justice. So then I thought about female scientists. You might recognize, I put the names here because I thought you might not recognize some of these women. Marie Curie, I hope. But other people, Rosalind Franklin, Barbara McClintock, Gertie Corey, some really amazing chemists and biochemists and geneticists that did incredible work in their fields and were dismissed or ignored, or worse yet, had their work attributed to the nearest proximal male doing similar work at the time, right? And weren't appreciated until decades later, sometimes even after their death. And it's not always that bad. I included Jennifer Doudna, who is a contemporary biochemist working at Berkeley on CRISPR-Cas9 bacterial enzymes that are groundbreaking in their use in genome editing. And if you haven't heard about that yet in the news, you will very soon. And any one of these people would have been really interesting too, but I worried that it wouldn't resonate for everybody in the room. And I see some of my science students, and we can talk about these people, like Gertie Corey, when we talk about the Corey cycle and biochemistry. But I wasn't there yet. I wasn't there yet. So I thought about the strong and smart women in my own family. And I thought about some of the people who influenced me in my own education. Sandra Larson was my undergraduate physical chemistry teacher. And I have to tell you, I was a reluctant chemistry major. I was a disgruntled chemistry major. I loved chemistry, but walking into large lecture halls and listening to people lecture at me for hours on end was so boring. I would literally come in and put my head down and fall asleep. And I would tell them, wake me up when you want me to actually do something. And to her credit, Dr. Larson, instead of getting upset with me or chastising me, said, you know what, maybe your job in life will be to teach chemistry better and make it more interesting for your students. And she asked me to work on a senior thesis project with her, developing active and collaborative and contextual materials for college chemistry classes. That turned into a 4-year job after graduation that I still work on to this day. And I've published workbooks of chemistry materials now on active and collaborative ways to teach chemistry. And Zhandong Wang was my doctoral thesis advisor. I'm going to come back to him in a second, but he is a brilliant Chinese American lung cancer researcher and gastrointestinal cancer researcher. I'm going to talk about him in a second. But I still wasn't there. I still hadn't figured out this one person that I really wanted to talk about. And so I went back to my charge of identifying a scholar or thinker who embodies intellectual ideals to provide inspiration for you students. And I decided to just not follow the rules. So I'm not going to choose a scholar or an academic to talk about today. In fact, instead I'm going to talk to you about an inspirational person whose life and career has taught me some important lessons about how I might pursue my own career and my studies and my path in life. And so my choice as a person to talk about as a hero, I'll say a hero. You guys know who this is? Serena Williams. Some people said Venus, you're close. Serena Williams. And Serena, if you don't know, she's an American tennis player. She has Grand Slam titles and Olympic gold medals and enormous amounts of money. And I'm not here today to talk about her accomplishments. What I want to talk about is what I've learned from Serena. And so there's 4 key points that I want to talk about today. And the first one is you have to believe in yourself. You guys might know, if you know anything about Serena, she came from very humble beginnings. She was actually born in Saginaw, Michigan. She was a Michigander, just like me. But they moved very soon after to Compton, California. And the Williams sisters learned to play tennis on the community courts in Compton with their father as a coach. And you know, I used to play a lot of tennis. When I lived in Beloit, I used to play USTA tennis tournaments, and I would train in the Beloit community courts. And then I would go on the weekends to Rockford or Madison or Milwaukee, Chicago, and I'd play these tennis tournaments. And I would walk in my shorts and t-shirt carrying my one racket because I didn't have a tennis bag, and walk into these elite tennis clubs and just feel like I didn't belong. And sometimes I wonder how Venus and Serena must have felt walking into these elite tennis clubs that they couldn't afford to be a member of, right? I remember meeting my opponents and thinking, man, the clothes that they were wearing, their little tennis outfits probably cost more than the car I drove in on, right? And I got to imagine they must have felt like they didn't belong. And I'm sure everyone here today has felt like that at some point in their career, right? Like you didn't belong, like you weren't good enough, you weren't smart enough. This hit me just a little while ago. A couple weeks ago, I was at this chemistry meeting, and I went to a session on X-ray crystallography. And it's something that I've read a lot about, and I try to teach my students about, but I'd never actually done it. And I walked into this room full of male, there was only one other female in the room. And I was really interested to hear about this, but it turned out that everyone else had been doing this as research, and they knew exactly what they were talking about. And it just all went over my head. And I felt embarrassed that I didn't know more, and I felt out of place and not smart enough. And at that moment, I could have pulled back and just kind of been quiet and hoped that no one figured out that I was only understanding about 25% of what was being said. But I didn't. I tried to engage. I asked a lot of questions, and I tried to really figure out what was going on. And you know what? I believe that I could learn about X-ray crystallography, and I think that you can learn about anything that you want to learn about. And it may take some work, but you can do it if you believe in yourself. And to me, the lesson here is to engage. Believe in yourself and engage. And don't worry about what other people are thinking of you. At the end of that workshop, I'm walking out of the room, and the person who led the workshop pulled me aside and asked me if I wanted to go and see the instrument and watch him take some data. And I said, yes, I would love to see. And he spent another 45 minutes with me showing me how this thing worked, and I learned a ton, and it was a great experience that I wouldn't have had if I didn't believe in myself and if I wasn't secure enough to just ask questions and engage. The other thing that Katrina has taught me is that cross-training is important. She's known for her cross-training. She spends tons of time on the tennis court practicing, but she also gets off the court, and she swims, and she runs, and she dances, and does yoga. And I would suggest to you that liberal arts is cross-training for your mind. When you take classes outside of your department, outside of your major, you are learning to be more flexible, creative thinkers. You are becoming more open-minded, and you're just becoming more interesting people. When I went to a liberal arts school, I was lucky enough to go to a liberal arts college, and I did that on purpose. But I have to admit to squishing in the gen ed courses in between my science and math courses and not really appreciating them at the time. And it wasn't until after I graduated that I went back and really started to appreciate all of those courses I took in literature and film and history and religion. It was times where I was traveling that I really started to appreciate that I had a better appreciation of what I was looking at and what I was experiencing. It was sitting at the dinner table at a conference with really important scientists and realizing that I had something to talk about. And so what I would suggest to you is that enjoying courses outside your discipline is an important thing. And if you have time left in your curriculum, if you have more courses to take, or even if you have some extra room in your schedule the next couple of semesters, take a course from a professor that just you've heard is really great, and we have a lot of them here. Take a course that just sounds cool and interesting. Mine was Caribbean history, and it was great. And really engage in courses outside your discipline, because it will not only make you a better professional in your field, it will make you a much more interesting person and a better dinner partner later on. And it makes you really good at trivia. I kick butt. I beat my husband every night when we watch Jeopardy together. Yeah. All right, another thing that Serena taught me is that you should learn from your setbacks and grow stronger. Serena has had her share of injuries, career-threatening injuries. She's had her share of tragedy in her life. She's had her share of challenges and setbacks and meltdowns on the court. If you're a tennis fan, she can melt down sometimes really dramatically. But she always comes back and wins. How does she do that? One of the things that she talks about in an interview is that she used to view it as punishment when she lost, to have to go back and watch the game film. She'd go back and watch it and relive that loss. And she viewed it as punishment, but she realized later on that forcing herself to watch those losing matches, she was learning what she did wrong and how she might beat that opponent next time, right? She was watching the match more objectively and thinking about what she could do to improve. And what does that sound like? So vernal self-assessment right there, right? I mean, it's right there. And so my suggestion to you here, my advice to you here is to not avoid challenges and setbacks, that it's not about being lucky enough to avoid all obstacles. It's about meeting those challenges head on. It's about embracing failure. It's going to happen, and it can't be avoided sometimes. But learning from it, learning from the feedback that you get. I was talking to Ebony as we were waiting before this began, and I had a point in my education that I hit a major setback. I had done 2 years of extremely hard work in a nutrition and exercise physiology lab that was supposed to, it was my master's work, but it was supposed to be leading into my Ph.D. work. And after those 2 years, I had just passed my qualifying exams. I was ready to start my Ph.D., and my advisor came in one day and quit. He just quit. He left to go into industry. And that was it. That work was just gone. And if you know anything about clinical research, often you do years of work, and it's not until the end you get any publications. And so I had nothing to show. I had no publications. I had nothing. I had just been at that hospital at 5 a.m. every day for 2 years and worked really hard and nothing. And it felt like a monumental setback to me at the time, and I cried. I cried a lot. But eventually I stopped crying, and I picked myself up, and I started going around to other researchers at my institution and said, hey, I've passed my qualifying exams. I'm a smart person. Do you have need for a student? Do you need another graduate student? And that's when I met Jean Dong Wang. And he was a cancer researcher, but he was interested, and he gave me a chance and said, if you want to come in and learn about animal research and cell research, and you want to study cancer biology, I'll teach you. And it was wonderful. He had a lab full of smoking ferrets and alcoholic rats, and I'm not kidding. And if you want to learn more about smoking ferrets and alcoholic rats, I teach Biochemistry 395 in the spring, and we get to talk about that kind of stuff. It's great. And it was wonderful, and it was not an easy path, and it slowed me down. My PhD ended up it took me 7 years to finish master's, PhD, and doctoral work, and it was a long road. But it was the right road for me. And so my advice to you here is just to realize that sometimes the longer, more challenging path is the right one. Finally, find your balance. We found out in 2017, after Serena won the Australian Open, that she actually had been pregnant while she was playing that tournament and winning that tournament. And she gave birth to a daughter, Alexis Olympia Ohanian Jr. I think it's so cool that she named her child after the husband, Alexis Ohanian Sr., because why do boys get to be the only ones that get to benefit from the privilege and of being a namesake? Why not the girls? I think it's great. I wish I would have thought of it, although my daughters would agreed. We had a discussion about this the other night, and they're happy they're not Douglas Jr., so it's okay. But she's been really open about how hard it is to balance her career and motherhood. She had a C-section and had to come back physically from that. She had postnatal depression and had to come back mentally. And she's even talking recently about having a male coach have to tell her that if she really wanted to train as hard as she needed to train, she had to stop breastfeeding. And she talks about how hard it was to hear that message from a male coach, but then to actually confront what she needed to do. And to me, it's her honesty with all of this that's really impressive to me, that it is hard. It's hard being a woman, and I don't care if you have children or you don't have children. We have a lot of priorities to juggle. And finding that balance between that priorities is hard, but she's someone that shows you that you don't have to be perfect, but there's ways that you can be powerful and you can find that balance, and you can do it and accomplish a great deal. And in doing that, she's become much more of a social advocate recently and has won many awards for her advocacy, especially in Black communities. So to come back to where I started, is Serena an intellectual hero? Maybe not. She has a lot of these qualities, but intellectual hero, I don't know. But still, I think she can teach us a lot. And I want to congratulate you again on reaching this point in your career, and I want to tell you how impressed I am by you. It is you students that make my job worthwhile. It is you students that inspire me to come to work every day and make it. After 13 years here, I still enjoy every single second of it. Well, sometimes the feedback in the middle of mid-semester assessment week's a lot, but still, I really do enjoy it, and I'm impressed. Whether you're the first in your family to go to college, or a working mom trying to make a better life for your family, whether you're the person that in the front of the room with your hand up in the air for every question, or the person sitting in the back thoughtfully analyzing what's going on, you inspire me, and I would tell you that you are my intellectual heroes. It is you students every day that inspire all the faculty of El Verno, and you have every single one of these qualities. You are smart, you are courageous and original, you are resilient and compassionate, and have insight and humor and humility and spark and strength. And so I hope that this reflection on Serena Williams can inspire you to keep working hard as you come across obstacles and work your way through challenges and encounter setbacks. Don't be intimidated, just keep plugging away. I hope you can embrace your liberal arts education and courses outside your major. I hope you can find the balance that you need to find between work and school and family and friends. And finally, I hope that you can continue to support each other and recognize that women working together are a powerful force for equality and justice in the world. And I hope that someday soon I will see you at a graduation because you are my intellectual heroes. Thank you.
So, pretty amazing, right? For our next piece, thank you so much, Heather. It was truly inspiring. Thank you. Our next piece now is time for you to move to the departments or schools where your advisors are, and you'll find the location of those meetings on the back of the program. And if you'll head to those meetings now, when you're done with the meetings, come back to the lobby for a reception so that we can all congratulate you one more time. So thank you. It was good to meet you.